Hello there folks, my name is Spoonks and welcome back to another episode of Box Office Chat. This is the show I break down the top 5 domestic box office results, see where each movie landed, and see how well each movie did, so let's get started. Number 5 was Reagan, making $2.9 million this weekend, adding to a domestic total of $23 million, and that total stays the same worldwide as it hasn't been released in any international countries yet. Reagan is still sticking around. This movie has done a lot better than I thought it would. As you know, a movie I didn't see a lot of marketing or buzz. It tapped into its own little audience, of which, older audiences are really showing up for this. It's not like the next, Oppenheimer or anything, but for a biopic about Reagan starring Dennis Quaid, this has surprised me, and because of that, it has surpassed its initial production budget of $20 million. All it has to do now is double that. We'll see if it can get there. Maybe if it releases in some international countries, it can get to that total. But yeah, things are looking pretty solid for this movie, just from the type of movie it is, from, my expectations going into it, how I had such low expectations for it, and the fact that the movie has done this well. Like, I wasn't even expecting this movie to hang around in the top 5 for this long, and it really stuck around, legs were really strong. People are encouraging others to go see it in its type of audience. People seem to be really wanting to go check this movie out, so props to you, Reagan. That will probably be one of the few times I ever say that in my life, but props to you. Number 4 was Am I Racist, opening with $4.5 million this weekend. Domestically, that worldwide total stays the same once again, as it hasn't been released in any international countries yet. This was another film like Reagan I didn't have a lot of expectations for. I thought it would crack outside the top 5, and something like, Killer's Game or My Old Ass would surely crack the top 5. But no, it was the Matt Walsh documentary comedy that was able to beat the two of them, which is impressive to say the least. I'm just going to say it right now, I'm not a fan of Matt Walsh, but it is surprising and impressive to see how a lot of his fans really went out to come out to see his movie and, make enough, his movie making enough money to crack the top 5. It was a slow weekend, but still, the fact that it was able to beat the other tentpole movies that I thought would beat this movie is rather impressive. So I guess props to you, Matt Walsh. You made a movie people wanted to go check out. We'll see if this is front loaded. We'll see how the legs are for this movie, but it cracked the top 5. That's something. Number 3 was Deadpool and Wolverine, making $5.2 million this weekend, bringing its domestic total to $621 million, and its worldwide total to $1.3 billion. So the film has now officially surpassed the $1.3 billion milestone. Hooray, hurrah. It took so long to get to this very, very big milestone, but it did it. It's another milestone to add to this film's list of milestones. As you can tell, I'm running out of things to say about this movie. It's pretty much made all the money it really needed to. Will it get to $630 million domestically? Maybe, who knows. Just know it's another weekend for Deadpool and Wolverine. We are headed into the slowdown period for this movie, where, the hype has definitely died down. More bigger movies are coming out, and, the movie is losing steam, but it's still made a ton of money regardless. It's just that, it's made so much that I'm running out of things to say about it. I think it's got maybe 2 more weeks left in it, and then it'll be out of the top 5, but it's probably going to make the most out of the limited time it has here. So yeah, once again, just another solid weekend for Deadpool and Wolverine. Number 2 was Speak No Evil, opening with $11 million this weekend domestically and $20 million worldwide. This is the 5th biggest opening for a horror film this year, topping Abigail, but still sitting behind Night Swim, The Strangers Chapter 1, Long Legs, and A Quiet Place Day 1. I thought this movie would do a bit better given the heavy marketing campaign we saw for the film and the buzz we saw for the trailer. I don't know, I thought maybe because of how many times the trailer has been played that would have sparked some interest, but it wasn't able to spark that long leg spark of interest, that really made that film a sleeper hit. This was become another horror dud, not a dud per se, because we'll get to why it actually isn't in bad shape, but just another okay horror movie opening. The buzz wasn't really there, and I do think a lot of people were really sick of seeing this trailer in front of everything. So that's kind of why the film didn't really break out like some of the other horror movies did. But like I said, this isn't a dud, I would say, as the film didn't cost that much. This is a Blumhouse film. It only costed $15 million to make, and thanks to the worldwide totals, it's already made that back. So I'm sure it's going to be able to double that by the end of this week. And the word of mouth does seem to be pretty solid on this film. It got a B+ cinema score rating, which is really good for a horror film and better than most horror films got this year. And because the rest of the month is mostly filled with like kids movies, this weekend we got Transformers, and next weekend we got The Wild Robot, and it is spooky season. I'm sure this will be able to stand out. So an interesting, decent opening for Speak No Evil. Hopefully it can manage to leg out, maybe spark some of that interest and strong word of mouth we saw with some other horror movies this year. As for right now, this opening, I would call it a decent opening. Hopefully things end up being better for this movie down the road, because it's a decent opening. It's not great, but it's decent. And finally, let's end the video off with the number one movie of the weekend, which was once again Beetlejuice, making $51 million this weekend, adding to a domestic total of $187 million and a worldwide total of $264 million. So Beetlejuice is still doing very well for itself. It actually held like a blockbuster would, just dropping 54% in its second weekend, which is really good to see, especially for a horror comedy like this. Once again, like I said with Speak No Evil, spooky season is in full effect. People are really getting into the spooky spirit of the holiday, and they have this movie to do that for. And because of that, the film is now just a little over $10 million away from the $200 million milestone domestically, and worldwide it is a little under $40 million away from surpassing the $300 million milestone, which is really impressive. There is still a bit of a divide internationally and domestically. Internationally, it's not quite as big as the domestic numbers, but I don't think it's as big of a divide as we saw with like Twisters or anything. So it's going to be interesting to see how the international numbers do throughout the rest of the film's run, and it's going to be interesting to see how this movie does through the rest of the month. Again, there's a lot of family movies coming out for the rest of the month, so that might steal this movie's family audience a little bit. So we'll see how that does, but it's clear that people still are enjoying the sequel and are encouraging us to go check it out. People still really want to go and check this movie out and are enjoying it a lot. This spells great things for the film. Again, the film was only a $100 million movie. It's already double that. I'm sure it's going to quadruple it really soon. Overall, things are looking great for Beetlejuice. And those were your top 5 domestic box office results for this weekend, but we're not quite done yet, as we've got another week ahead of us and new movies hitting theaters. And this weekend we have one new major wide release, that film being Transformers 1. This is not just the first animated Transformers movie in a while, but it's also an origin story showing how Optimus Prime and Megatron, who were once best buddies, became rivals and enemies, leading to the battle between the Autobots and the Decepticons. I think this movie's gonna do really well. I'm not expecting it to be a big opening, like Inside Out or Despicable Me 4, but I think, because we haven't had an animated film like this since Despicable Me 4, and I think a lot of families are yearning for a family movie to take their kids to see, something that isn't Harold and the Purple Crayon. I think this movie will do just that. The marketing has been really solid. I've been seeing a lot of promos and ads for it. The buzz does seem to be there, and despite the first trailer's initial backlash, people do seem to be warming up to this film, and the reviews have been surprisingly strong. People have been really singing the film's praises. What does question me, or I should say rather hold this movie back, is the competition. The very next week, not only do we have another animated movie, we have another animated movie about a robot, and it's going to be interesting to see how those movies face off one another. It's going to be interesting to see how that movie eats into this movie's box office for sure, but that's really the only thing I think could hinder this movie's performance as far as this weekend goes. I think we're going to see a really solid opening here. Nothing that really breaks new ground or anything, but definitely something I can see, surprising people given the really prevalent marketing and, lack of other family films. So yeah, I think this movie's going to deliver this weekend. I think we're going to see a very solid opening for Transformers 1, but we'll see how well this movie truly does, as well as the rest of the movies that land in the top 5 on the next Box Office Chat. And that's going to do it for this week's episode of Box Office Chat. What did you all think of the results? Were you satisfied? Unsatisfied? Comment down below and let me know. If you like this video, hit the like button. If you like this channel, hit the subscribe button. Follow me on all the social media links right there. And until next time, everyone, stay sharp.